This episode contains discussions of suicide. If you or someone you know needs help, call or text the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline or visit 988lifeline.org.
You're new around here, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm Tommy. Guess who's back?
For those who possess the great power, all things are possible.
Face it, you're just circuits and sensors. You're nothing like me. You have no heart.
I almost gave up on myself, Goldar. But your little picture show reminded me how much good I've done. Not only as a Green Ranger, but as me. Plain old Tommy. I just wanted to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for hanging in there with me through all this. It was tough, but you guys came through. It means a lot to me.
Earth is safe again. It was an honor to fight by your side.
This is RangerCast, Episode 4, in appreciation of Tommy Oliver, recorded on Sunday, December 4th, 2022. In this episode, we talk about our favorite Tommy moments, as well as the latest from set, moves at Hasbro, and some exciting news for Tokusatsu fans. Alright, this is RangerCast. I'm Tyler, better known as Rito Volto, and I have Lamar with me.
Hey, happy to be here, everyone.
And our goal is for this episode to be a little less dour than the emergency podcast we put out following Jason David Frank's death. We know a little bit more, and we're gonna get to that. And our flag here at RangerCast World Headquarters is still at half-mast. And I think we're all still in a real sense of shock and grief
Yeah.
over his death. But we're going to get to that more of that later, along with memories of our favorite Tommy moments. But for lack of a good segue, we're going to get to some news. So, Cosmic Fury is in the middle of filming the last episode. In fact, the day after we received the sad news that Jason Frank died, the cast was at their first read-through for the final episode. Also, avert your ears, skip ahead a few minutes if you don't want to hear this potential spoiler. But the Twitter user, the A Games 10, I believe, was first on this, spotting Abraham Rodriguez's Instagram story, putting him in Auckland, and the cast, especially him, they've not been shy about him being down there. As far as I can tell, he's the only Beast Morphers cast member down there. It's possible, given how active Nate is in examining the vault at Grid Battle Force, and the fact that the Rangers are known to be fans of his brother's show, make me wonder what kind of role he'll play in the finale.
Yeah, I mean, I still have to get caught up on stuff. But from what I've seen, Abraham is a fan favorite, and I mean, it's great also that they're tying things in a little bit more. One of the things I really felt was a loss in the more recent seasons has been the lack of interconnectivity. Especially um, past seasons coming back and participating with the more recent seasons, like how they used to do in the late Saban era, where they
Yeah,
do the
yeah.
crossovers. So doing stuff like that again, I think, is a great development, and it helps the fans of one season become fans of the next.
And I don't want to spoil the backstretch of Dino Fury for you. But I will say that it delivers on that, and it's building towards this idea of other characters popping in.
That's awesome. Well, I'm excited. Definitely something where when I'm able to get caught up. Uh, it's just something getting all the finances lined up.
Yeah, I think by the time that enough other hosts have, watched it, I'll have to rewatch it. I mean, I have notes, and I loved it. Uh, but it's fantastic stuff, and I really can't wait to see where they go with this in Cosmic Fury. It's going to be very, very, very exciting. And speaking of show news, Hasbro, this has been discussed for some time. They might be doing this under the new regime of Chris Cox, but they are officially putting a for sale sign outside Entertainment One, which they bought like three some years ago, and is the unit of Hasbro now responsible for the production of the show. Um, Hasbro says E1, this is according to Hollywood Reporter, is no longer supporting its branded entertainment strategy. Um, so they're going to focus on branded assets, they say, like Peppa Pig, Transformers, and Dungeons and Dragons. This comes from a investor call, an investor statement put out by Hasbro. It comes right after E1 CEO Darren Throop left the company at the end of 2022 at the end of his employment contract. They acquired E1 for $4 billion in 2019, and they were looking to make themselves into a media contender. But then the pandemic happened, and there are all these delays and what have you. They weren't able to do it. Now, what we don't know is what this means for the show and the plans that were already in motion for for Jonathan Entwistle and Jenny Klein to make the show and movies going forward. Because as far as we understand, their contracts aren't with John Hasbro. They're with E1. And if there were to be a split, would the making of the show still be contracted out to E1, which has this deal with Netflix and all of that? And it's really very confusing.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I'm not quite sure how to envision how things will change from this development. Um, I know definitely transfers have been both good in the sense of Wild Force to Ninja Storm, and also less good, such as from RPM to Samurai. So it's really just going to come down to how much passion do the producers have, and really, that's not a matter of who's owning it, it's just a matter of who's working on it. So I'm hopeful that the franchise will do what's best.
Right. And it's important to stress because some fans have kind of misunderstood this news. They aren't selling Power Rangers.
Yes, no, that's definitely something that Hasbro does not want to do. They're clearly doing very well with Power Rangers. It's a growing market for them. And don't worry, guys, this is not another 2009 RPM situation where Power Rangers might end forever. Like we're still good.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of sensitive to that because it's a show that has been on death's door multiple times. But they paid $500 billion for Power Rangers. they're not going to give up on it that easily. But then again, like I said, they paid $4 billion for E1, so and the CEO whose idea that was is no longer with us. So who knows? Uh, didn't mean to get everybody spooked, but I'm just kind of thinking it through. Uh,
Yeah.
so in other news, there's going to be another free comic book day, Power Rangers comic. They're going to start a new series actually with Free Comic Book Day. The series is called Ranger Academy, and we know it's going to be written by Maria Ingrande Mora with art by Joe Mignon, and it's meant for all ages. It'll introduce brand new characters, and the cover will be by Miguel Mercado, and that is basically all we know. Uh, all we got is conjecture, like Geek Tyrant speculates that it might have some kind of tie-in to the 30th anniversary special, which some people are saying it's supposed to come out in March. I'm not sure. Free Comic Book Day is, of course, May 6th. So we'll see what they end up doing with that. And in toy news, uh, fans uncovered, as they always do, the box art for a 5-pack of Alien Ranger toys. Like the Psycho Rangers, they're selling all 5 same time. It might be an Amazon exclusive, or it might be exclusive to some other retailer like Target or something.
Amazon
We don't really
exclusive is what
know.
I heard. Um,
I think it's all speculation though, because the
yeah.
Psycho Pack was Amazon exclusive.
Hmm.
I'm still
Yeah,
waiting on
what?
my Savage Sword.
That might be a bit of a longer wait. No, but in addition to just the box art, they also released pictures of what the figures themselves are going to look like,
Yeah,
and
it's on
what
the back.
gear and
Yeah.
equipment they're going to come with. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting was that they're not all exactly the same size. They've,
Yeah.
you know, uh, I think it
Well, they
was half
yeah.
an inch between the red and black to the white or to the blue and yellow, something along those lines.
Yeah,
But
that's a good eye.
mhm,
The black and red are 6.29 inches tall.
mhm.
The blue and yellow are 6.25, and the white is 5.9. You're right. That's a really interesting detail. I hadn't noticed that. They don't come with heads. Um, if only somebody like Greg Aronowitz were out there, and felt dedicated enough to make heads. But what I really like is the front of the box has art of the Equations on Aquitar. Not,
Mhm.
the heads of it, but like the Rangers morphed on Aquitar, which is just rad and really great attention to detail because we only caught glimpses of Aquitar in the show.
And I mean, rampant speculation that might suggest that they might be doing something on Aquitar in the near future in the show or in the comics. Because I mean, doing all that artwork for just one release wouldn't make as much sense.
I mean, it is Cosmic Fury.
Yeah, there does tend to be a cosmos in Cosmic Fury.
Yeah, and there are plenty of planets out there.
Hmm.
Triforia.
KO-35.
We might meet you know, Billy's girlfriend or ex in the special. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and in other box art news, and fans again doing what they do, uh, they uncovered art of a Ryuki Blu-ray set and a Deca Ranger Blu-ray set to come out from Shout Factory. And these are probably going to be revealed next weekend during a Kamen Rider Zero One marathon. But really kind of hate when fans do this stuff because they kind of ruin the surprise for everybody. Um, my friend Mike works on the trailer for these things, and this happens every single time. Let people be surprised. I mean, I'm excited it's coming, but there are people who like plan these announcements. People just go data mining the Shout Factory website.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I do understand wanting to be the first one to get the information. But on the other hand, yeah, you're undercutting the studios and the producers and the people who work hard on this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I'm wondering if perhaps sometimes it's an effort to try and speed up releases of information. I know that was one of the things that's happened a few times with the big blockbuster movies. Is somebody will release a really sketchy version of the trailer online, so the studios then says, "Okay, well, we'll show you the cleaned up version."
Mm. Well, speaking of really sketchy versions online, people are pointing out some issues with the Deck Ranger box art. Box art itself looks legit, same, graphic design, all that. But if you actually take a closer look, the photo of the Rangers is a slightly tweaked version of a publicity shot released for SPD. And if you look down at the bottom, every single one of those screenshots is from Power Rangers SPD. Like there's Disney Art of Rick, there's the motorcycle, there's Grum. And um I know the producer Brian Ward has talked about how, they get what they get from Toei, but I don't know. Go back to the drawing board. We don't know release date about any of this stuff. But it's great to see that Sentai releases are back and coming out in with a reasonably quick pace. I actually just got Abba Ranger about a week ago, and I started watching that again. That was actually the first Sentai that I watched way back. I still have the bootleg, the Hong Kong DVDs. Uh, Needless to say, the subtitles on the official release are much, much, much better.
I mean, the Sentais, obviously, that's the source, and that's something I, for example, have been considering getting into. I don't know if there's too many people in I know that there's definitely an overlap between Power Rangers fans and Sentai fans, but I think this will also help kind of bridge the gap, and maybe cross-pollinate a little bit. Because there are also some people who are strictly Sentai fans, and not Power Rangers fans. So I'm hoping by Shout Factory doing these sorts of releases, it'll help with that. And one of the things I think would actually really support that would be if they try and get the American cast to voice their Japanese counterparts. Obviously, there's some exceptions to that that you wouldn't be able to do, but that might be a good way to kind of help with that cross pollination.
I think dubbing things costs money. Um, and
That's
it
fair.
it comes down to a cost benefit analysis. In Japan, they've dubbed Power Rangers a few times. Most notably, SPD was dubbed by their Japanese counterparts. And for Toei, the math works out for them. But Sentai is a niche within a niche within a niche. And the numbers likely wouldn't work out to dub it. Shout Factory in general, as far as I know, the release of Japanese content, they're either working with a partner like G Kids, or they release what the materials that are already out there. I don't think, don't quote me on this, I don't think they commissioned any original dubs for this stuff. And also technical reasons, like right now, you know, they fit all these episodes on X number of DVDs. If you want to put another audio track on them, that's probably going to be several more DVDs. So, and then you got to, packaging all that kind of skyrockets because you need, bigger case to hold all those things. So, I really don't think the numbers work out for that.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Just kind of spitballing again. I haven't bought
Yeah.
any of the Sentai originals, so I just
Yeah.
trying to think of ways that it might be a little bit more accessible.
Yeah. Yeah. But Power Rangers and Sentai, I feel like the purists were really a thing back in the early to mid aughts, but Power Rangers fans, online Power Rangers fandom was clamoring for releases like this long before anybody was even doing them, long before even Power Rangers itself was on these DVD sets. So I think the demand is there, and were it not for the unexplained gap, we might have gotten a bit more up to speed. Now, it's also likely that when they start, getting up to Bokenger, we get these on Blu-ray sets instead of DVD sets, and I'm looking forward to that. Um, and in other Tokusatsu news, Shin Ultraman is going to be in theaters for a couple days in January as part of a Fathom Events release. And for those who aren't familiar with that movie, it's written by Hideaki Anno, the creator of Evangelion. He also wrote and directed Shin Godzilla, and is also writing and directing, Shin Kamen Rider. And the setup of the movie is Ultraman accidentally kills a guy while battling like kaiju, and he takes his appearance and takes his job at the S-Class Species Suppression Protocol to protect Earth. It's screening around the corner for me, and I plan to be first in line.
Yeah, I haven't really watched too much Ultraman other than a little bit of the 4Kids programming. However, the Shin Godzilla movie was actually fantastic. So if they're taking a similar approach to that, but with Ultraman, that actually sounds really intriguing. So definitely keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, it was co-produced by Tsuburaya Toho and Anno's company Kara, and it's a movie adaptation basically of the original Ultraman series. It was supposed to be released in early summer of last year, but it was delayed due to COVID, and it released in Japan back in May. And speaking of Japan, boy, I'm Segway City over here. Somebody tweeted out a report I hadn't seen from NHK World, where if you go to Japan and you have a little bit of money to throw around, you can go to Mount Uofune, which is a the quarry there, which is very recognizable. Anybody who's watched Power Rangers or Sentai or really many Japanese hero shows, because it's where they go to blow stuff up. It's where they go when there's a team up. And something that is going to be, a couple things that are going to be filming at Mount Uofune almost assuredly are a pair of 20th anniversary specials. There is you might remember Hurricaneger 10 years after. Well, they're going back to that well again at Toei with Hurricaneger 20 years after. Ninpu Sentai Hurricaneger Degozaru Shushuto 20th anniversary will feature the Hurricane Rangers traveling back in time to the Edo period to stop a mysterious new evil. All five of the Rangers from Hurricaneger will be returning. And as for the Aba Ranger project, that one is really interesting, um, because they were actually able to get everybody back, which was surprising because Aiko Ito left acting several years ago. The movie Bakudu Sentai Aba Ranger 20th Unforgivable Abare will see the Aba Rangers reunite after 20 years in a world that no longer recognizes their actions. Abaded will be given a new power-up, transforming into Cho Abare Max. Abare Max is what was known in America as the Triassic Ranger. Um, so yeah, Aiko Ito played Abare Yellow. I wasn't sure if that was obvious. And Abare Killer is again back from the dead.
It's
And
easy for
series
you
head
to
writer
say.
Naruhisa Arakawa is coming back to write it. And Premium Bandai will be releasing a memorial edition of the Dino Brace, which is the Dino Morpher here in America. And the release will include a new plate for that Morpher, for that Dino Brace, based on the new Cho Obadimax form. That will get a limited theatrical release in 2023 and hit home media in March of 2024. So, pivoting from that again to some of the more depressing stuff that we hinted that we might be talking about. Tammy Frank talked to People Magazine about her husband's suicide, and was really really a heartbreaking piece. She says, and again, I'm going to preface this by saying, obvious content warning for talk of suicide. She says that they were actually in the middle of reconciling. That's why they were at a hotel together. They were on a country music, country dancing getaway. And they stayed out till last call. They had a long conversation in his hotel room. They had separate hotel rooms, not because, marital issues, but because what they always do. He was a snorer. She left his room to go get snacks. Couldn't have been gone more than 10 minutes. Came back, pounded on the door. And when police made entry, yeah. And there are fans, they're so-called fans, who are harassing her. I have no patience for that. Just don't, find something better to do with your life.
Yeah, I mean, their family has to be going through just absolute pain. And I mean,
Hell.
we lost Tommy Oliver. They lost Jason David Frank, is kind of the way I've been looking at it. Yes, we're all hurting. I can guarantee they're hurting a lot more. Um,
Yeah.
and saying stuff like that, I'd say all that really does is it causes further division within the family and makes the grieving process and the healing process that much more difficult. So please respect their right to grieve. If you want to send well wishes, that's fine. If you want to send something else, don't.
He was the, love or hate him, he was the embodiment of fun at everything he did. He was the embodiment of joy. And to use this opportunity to cause even more, but that's not what he would have wanted. And there are people who are trying to figure out some kind of logical explanation for his death, and they're not going to find it. Depression doesn't work that way. Mental illness doesn't work that way.
Yeah, no, I mean, we all want to make sense of it, and we all really, I think we all just wish it didn't happen. And I completely get that. This is one of the guys he's been with the franchise forever. He was the face of the franchise, and he was one of the few actors who still were kind of big, but didn't pretend like they were embarrassed about this franchise. So it feels
Yeah.
like we lost not just our, the figurehead, but kind of the our main voice of the franchise. And that's definitely a major loss. But again, we really have to remember there was a person behind um, the character and a person behind all of our support, and he had a family. And it's really important we do what we can to help them recover in this time. Because obviously, like I said, we are hurting. Yes, they're hurting so much more, and they need us now more than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd also like to suggest listeners to check out our friends at Ranger Command Power Hour. They have, in addition to their remembrances and tributes, they published a recent-ish interview around the time of LexCon that was conducted by, you know him on Twitter as Kentucky Jam. His name is Joshua Moore. He did an interview for his local paper, and he shared that with Ranger Command. And I really recommend you listen to it. They get into some deep stuff. So we're going to take a break. We're going to reset. And when we come back, we're going to talk about our favorite Tommy moments and reflect some more on the loss of Jason David Frank.
So you want to hear people talk about Japanese cartoons?
You know, anime.
But you think the other anime podcasters just aren't nerdy enough?
Sounds like you need to join forces with the Anime World Order,
Where each week 3 self-proclaimed experts offer you reviews.
Of titles both new and classic, news and commentary,
rants, convention reports, interviews with fandom.
And some hentai and yaoi for good measure.
so search for anime in the iTunes Music Store.
Or visit our website at animeworldorder.com.
Anime World Order, revealing the truth about anime, one podcast at a time.
And we're back. So, as you heard in the top of the show with a lot of those audio clips of, moments that made you smile, made you think, what Tommy meant to us and the legacy he left on the show. We've been thinking over these last couple weeks, especially since, when me and Mike did that episode, there were people who couldn't make it because our schedule was like right hell now. And we wanted to, kind of look back on some of our favorite Tommy moments. And Lamar, I know you gave that wonderful remembrance on the audio drama podcast. I'm not gonna, ask you to just read it word for word here, but I was wondering if you could tell me, what Tommy meant to you and what you think about when you think Tommy Oliver, what your favorite moments were.
Yeah, so for me, Tommy Oliver was the guy that gave me hope that, you know, even if you don't have any friends, you can make friends for life. To kind of touch on what I touched on in the audio drama Remembrance, I bounced around a lot as a kid, didn't really have any solid footing, so seeing Tommy come in, and even though he didn't get off, to the right start with the Rangers, being a, great friend to them and them, just treating him like the rest of them, that was a huge uplifting point in my life, and definitely gave me a lot of hope. Um, as far as favorite moments go, you know, definitely I enjoyed his original run, but I think it's the returns that really warm my heart. Him coming back in Dino Thunder to be a mentor for that season and for that team, I think was absolutely wonderful because there's quite a few Ranger teams that probably could have used a veteran mentor. Dino Thunder definitely was one of them. And I liked that he was, very supportive of his team, or the character at least was supportive of his team, and also I appreciated that, he didn't come in and demand that the entire season be about him. He understood that, like, he's the mentor figure. It's not his season, but he's back to help the season. And I'd say the other favorite moment is probably his last return in Super Ninja Steel, because it really kind of acknowledged the legacy and the history that his character has had. Kind of recognizing, hey, you are the guy who's had the most suits. You're the guy that's been around the most. You are the leader of not just your teams, but the leader of the franchise. And so that was nice to see that get acknowledged.
Yeah, yeah. I think, thinking about, Dr. O, something that fans really liked about Dimension of Danger was that, it acknowledged, Reef side and all of that, people really, almost as much as MMPR have nostalgia for Dino Thunder and what Tommy brought to that series. And, like just because of the nature of his contract, it couldn't be about him because he had to be stateside for a good span of the season until he returned in Fighting Spirit, returned to the flesh, I should say, in Fighting Spirit. But when I think about Green No More, where he was shown a demented version of "This Is Your Life" by Goldar in Zed's dimension, and he fought Goldar without his powers and escaped. And it was one of the first times that Power Rangers gave us this lesson that being a ranger is about more than having the power. It's about what's in your heart, and that was echoed in Fighting Spirit when the second Pterosaurus stole their powers, and they still went and confronted him just like Tommy would. Meanwhile, Tommy was fighting his own battle against his alternate selves to survive. And I think of iconic moments like fighting Zed, and or like grabbing the Zeo crystal in Master Vial in the metallic armor when he was not 100% sure whether he would even survive. He had to prove that he was good, despite uh, everything that he did when he was under Rita's spell. And this idea of atonement. And I think that's the moment when, for Tommy, that atonement was complete.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and to kind of circle back to Fighting Spirit, and I know I've mentioned once or twice on the podcast that my wife and I use Power Rangers as one of our workout shows. With Dino Thunder coming up next and the Fighting Spirit episode, I think the point of Tommy fighting his inner demons to survive, that episode's probably going to be a bit harder to watch for sure. And I know for a lot of you guys, when you watch that again, after hearing the news for the first time, that one's going to be harder too. Um, but definitely, I think one of the problems I had with the way that that episode took was that he did it alone. And if you're going to be fighting your inner demons, you really need your friends and family behind you.
I don't think that was necessarily the intended takeaway
No,
of that episode.
No, I don't think that's what they were trying to say. I
Yeah.
think that, having even just hearing, some voices, supporting him, that might have been a good way to kind of, I don't know, put a bow on that theme.
Mm, mm. And Mike, who couldn't make it today, said he always liked the end of Doomsday Part 2, where Tommy, who was in between stints as the Green Ranger, uh, chimes in and children arguing what color Ranger is the coolest by saying that they're all totally awesome. Looking on his former friends receive their well-deserved accolades, he said the humility shown by Tommy, knowing he isn't receiving the same credit, stuck out to me. And I think that was a really, really great moment. That was Power Rangers Day.
Yeah, yeah, and that's all American original footage, and I don't think we even knew that JDF was going to be coming back at that point, or I don't think even the producers knew he was going to be coming back at that point. I think that was supposed to be the
Right.
end, and that's a
Yeah,
really
yeah.
humble ending to his character.
Yeah, I mean, plans were very fluid. He was going to be leading what was then called Cybertron, and as you heard in an uh, Anime Central clip that we aired last time, there was a bit of a switcheroo when everybody wanted Tommy back. So back to Power Rangers he went, and Brad Hawkins went to VR Troopers. And that'd be an interesting alternate history. It seems like Brad Hawkins is kind of always the bridesmaid when it comes to Power Rangers because it sounded like him when the Gold Ranger turned up, but it wasn't him. Um, I think I think Tommy's returns worked best when he wasn't just like treated as like when like it worked best when we were shown why he was so special. Like Dimensions in Danger, where he busted out using his powers and his know-how. And defeated Robo Tommy single-handedly. The old rule of show don't tell. Or the wisdom he imparted on the Dino Thunder Rangers, based on his years of experience doing this and going through some of the same growing pains that those Rangers did.
Yeah, absolutely. No, our show is not exactly known for its subtle storytelling, but I think they were able to definitely show that Tommy has been a part of the Ranger legacy even when he's not on screen, and kind of
Right.
his occasion. Uh, his occasional returns, I think, only further solidified that.
Yeah. Or Dino Thunder, little things like, relating to what Trent was going through and talking to the other Rangers during the White Thunder arc.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the parallels between what Trent and Tommy went through obviously were intentional, and I really enjoyed that, to be fair. And I think that was uh, that was something that had Tommy not been there, it wouldn't have worked as well. And I know the Sentai is vastly different, so obviously it's a totally different take on that one as well. But I think for Power Rangers, especially with Dino Thunder being kind of a legacy anniversary season, that really hit the message home.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't think the show will ever have anybody as iconic again. It's kind of a special sauce that made Tommy work so well, not just the Japanese footage, but at risk of repeating myself, casting, writing, and just, and timing, great timing. And, when you think
Yep.
of Power Rangers, you think of Tommy. Um, is there anything else you'd like to say about Jason Frank before we go?
Um, just that I'll be praying for the repose of his soul, and that, as a fellow Christian, I'm praying for him, and I hope he's with God now.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Again, the number for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is 988. Take care of each other.
You're not alone.
If you like what you just heard, find us at rangercast.net or look us up in your favorite podcast app. Additional music in this episode was arranged by Rookie X Music. Find them on YouTube. The downbeat version of We Need a Hero is by Ron Wasserman. The ending theme is by me. RangerCast is distributed under Creative Commons license. Attribute and share alike. May the power protect you, always.